panel discussion of the day. And it's the one that gets the right towards the heart of business of growth. AI is rapidly changing how we acquire customers, personalize outreach, and fine-tune acquisition strategies across segments. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming our panelists, Mr. Bhavesh Jain, MD and CEO, TransUnion CIBIL, Mr. Anirban Mukherjee, CEO, PayU, Mr. Madhusudan Ekambaram, co-founder and CEO at KreditBee, and this session will be moderated by Mr. Manish Kumar Gupta, Chief Executive, Urban Unsecured Assets, Payments and Digital Partnerships, L&T Finance. You know what you have to do, everybody. Come on. We have some brilliant minds on stage over here. Let's hear their insights on how AI is driving smarter, sharper growth in India's financial landscape.
I think I have a tough job. Basically, after some wonderful sessions and lunch after this, I have a tough job to actually get some really great friends and participants as a part of this panel. And this is the first panel of the day. And our topic is applicability of AI in customer acquisition. We all know that AI has actually been great for many of the people who are sitting in the room. We've seen Cyclops, we've seen what it's done for L&T Finance. And I would actually introduce the panel here. Bhavesh is the CEO of TransUnion CIBIL and a very good friend, and and a lot of services that he provides are actually based on what the topic we are talking about. Madhu is the CEO of KreditBee, and basically it's an emerging fintech. And of course, we were talking just before this, as the kind of cycles that we've seen in the fintech industry, things are going down, but now things are coming up again. And of course, Anirban is the CEO of PayU. Both in the payments as well as in the lending space. They've actually done quite well. I was telling him yesterday that LazyPay, which was one of the earliest products on the BNPL side, they've actually used a lot of machine learning to actually evaluate customers. Was, I think, one of the first products that was actually launched in this country. So let me just start off. So Bhavesh, and this is maybe just 1 minute from each of you. What exactly does basically applicability of AI or AI-led acquisition mean to you in the financial services space?
So for me, AI means reimagining trust. It's combining data insights with human intelligence to ensure financial inclusion and ensure it goes into deeper geographies and build inclusion at scale.
I guess, so the biggest thing that AI has to give is the lowering the CAC, or the customer acquisition cost. I think I'm a transactional business guy, so I think that's the biggest outcome, what I would anticipate. Today, is the industry there, or are we there? The answer is a little bit murky, not very clear whether AI has really brought down the CAC cost. But if at all things have kind of turned out is one thing, right? What I observe in my people, company, and everywhere is that the emails what employees used to write to managers or to the customers have become more sophisticated. The language suddenly has become quite improved. So the communication what we are doing with the customers has greatly improved. I think that's what is the real change what I've seen. With respect to the cost, I think it's going to happen, but it's a little far away we are. Yeah. Yeah.
See, AI in financial services, I think will democratize access to credit in a much bigger way. Look, the march of any technology is TAM approaches population scale and costs approach the lowest possible, if not zero. I think AI will enable. So AI will make it much more predictive, much more personalized, but much more autonomous, which takes out a lot of the costs.
So, Bhavesh, we talked about financial inclusion, and I think we've seen Manish's presentation. We've seen what's happening in this space. So, how do you see rural lending actually incorporating AI and actually bringing real financial inclusion to the in this country?
Great question, Manish. So it's a combination of multiple data sources where AI would be deployed, starting with in terms of vernacular languages, voice components. Third is in terms of OCR-based data aspects. Fourth is in terms of converting all the unstructured data available across multiple sources. Next, I would say including all the aspects around land records, to KYC information, to a lot of other information, both in terms of asset and cash flow. So AI would be the best deployment across all the multiple data sources, both in terms of structured, unstructured, voice-based, other data sources all coming together and ensuring that you are able to establish the right behavior for the consumer, which makes underwriting even in a rural location quite objective. We have seen the massive growth in credit over last 2 decades has been enabled by objective lending. While rural credit growth has happened significantly, but then it's largely in the space of unsecured and some of the specific secured lending. Now it's the opportunity to deploy AI, combine all these data sources, and really make credit inclusion possible in the rural space.
Great. Madhu, you talked about CAC, and you said, okay, one of the things that you are not very sure is how AI is going to bring down CAC. But anything that KreditBee is doing in this space to actually, or on this particular point, to actually bring down CAC for getting customers in your area, in your company?
The CAC will come down with L&T will stop its own marketing for us, right? So anyways, I think CAC is a function of how is the competitive world has kind of geared up and then how much each of us are spending, right? So there's multiple factors. But a little important to, what is the UI use cases, which is what we have adapted, right? So before answering that, probably, let me ask one question to the audience, right? So how many guys actually use ChatGPT on a regular basis? Just it works with a raising hand. How many guys ask minimum 10 questions to ChatGPT on a daily basis? Okay, great. So very early, about a year back, in our company, we bought this licensed version, and we provided access to all our employees to use ChatGPT because that might improve the productivity and whatnot. We wouldn't know what exactly the questions they asked, but we would know the category of questions they asked. Any guesses on personal question versus personal questions that was asked to the ChatGPT during work hours? 94% of the questions were on the personal development or personal issues, starting from career development, say like household problems and whatnot. But that, after using that use case of ChatGPT, today I see that it has come to 70-30, right? 70% is towards still personal, 30% is towards the organizational problems, the work-related problems, but that's a great improvement, right? So I guess that's how the evolution would happen with the AI kind of ingrained to the companies. Now, having said that, this was one of the various experiments. The biggest outcomes, what we have seen about AI in our company, especially in lending, is a lot operational oriented as well. You need to do customer service, you need to do collections, you need to do telesales. Multiple things are quite operational led. So therefore, agentic AI has really brought in the efficiencies today, right? So that's the biggest efficiency improvement, especially as I talked about, the emails have become quite curated, right? So what you are writing to the customers or even within the organization, intra-organization emails have really kind of gotten to a very good maturity level. The calling has become more automated calls. I think just now we saw the examples of these automated calls and whatnot. And the clarity of communication, because you could bring in a lot of regulatory constraints. So a human talking might even do a mis-selling of a product, or might be a collections is a sensitive call, so we don't want that calls to be kind of going into a different angle altogether. So in all these things, the agentic AI has definitely made impact in the lending ecosystem, which are operationally heavy, right? So this is one thing what we have seen. The second thing is really the co-pilots of the world, right? So co-pilots are the developer assistant tools which can generate code, right? So I think when we started, it becomes tougher because you have a legacy source code, and you put any of these co-pilots of the world, the new code, what it generates over a legacy code is not directly usable. But in case if you are developing something altogether new, right? So complete from a scratch, and trying to use these co-pilots of the world to build certain source code from scratch has given us a very great improvement, right? So for example, like recently there was one new piece of code. We launched our UPI. So the entire UPI stack we started developing over this co-pilots. Close to about like 65–70% of the code was developed by these co-pilots compared to the engineers. But on the legacy code, I think we are trying to work upon. So I think there are various areas within the organization that AI is coming in and then doing a lot of efficiency check. But whether can you put a right buck and say that, did my OpEx increase by 5%, 10%, 15%? We are just reaching there, right? So it's not like it has come out very evidently, but we are all reaching there, yeah.
Great, thanks, Madhu. Anirban, you've used a lot of transaction data. You of course manage a very large part of the payments business, and payments is unstructured data. And many years back, even a pre-LLM era, you actually were using this transaction data for acquiring customers, right? How do you see that change in a of using the same set of data in a pre-LLM versus a post-LLM era, I would say?
Yeah, a great question. See, we've always used machine learning for figuring out transaction credit, who to lend to, how much to lend to, what use cases to promote. And this started late 90s in the US with Capital One. And, I've just seen it evolve over the last 25 years in many different ways. With LLM, you can use unstructured data and multimodal data. What they say to customer service, what cohorts of similar people say at different points, how they surf the app, how they just that data can improve it substantially. And then if you have access and you can use all their data all across, both voice, video, emails, chats, everything, then you can just underwrite very differently, but also you can do something else, which you can figure out what they really want. And really, in some ways, transaction credit is a lifestyle product. It's a credit product, but just like credit cards, it's both a transaction product and a credit product. And you help them get what they want from the world, right? That's your job as a platform. That's what we take seriously, whether it's offers, rewards, whether it's installments. You can help do a lot of that market making. You can become that platform if you use the data really well. That's the true power. That's on the consumer side. And of course, cross-sells of personal loans and other larger lending tickets become much easier. But on the seller side, we work with many partners. What transaction happens in let's say, in a store, whether it's a cloth shop or whether it is a mithai ka dukan, what kind of people come, what feedback do they give that guy, is very, very useful in predicting the creditworthiness, right? So more kinds of data used in many more creative ways tells you much more about their creditworthiness, but also what they want. And that's how I think the world will evolve.
That's great. Rather, there's something which is something that happened yesterday, which is quite interesting. So yesterday, I think the AI governance guideline came out. It's a 3-page guideline which effectively talked about safe and trusted AI. And I think now that, and it's a lot of it is actually focused towards customer acquisition on how exactly we should evaluate or how exactly AI model should be deployed for customer acquisition. So question to you, Bhavesh, basically, and I think this is a question for each one, we can go one by one, is basically it talks about explainable AI. How do you think explainable AI is, and or basically fairness and biases are actually will play a role going forward, and how do you comply to the guidelines that are coming? They're not a regulation, but they're a guideline, and I'm sure this is something which TransUnion has been working on. So,
Absolutely, Manish. So it's a very important aspect when you look at deploying AI across different use cases and consumer life cycle. I would say 3 pillars when you look at deploying AI in your organization. The first is in terms of making sure it's fair. Second, it's explainable. And third, are you holding yourself accountable for it? So when you look at in terms of explainability, as a leading credit bureau, we make sure that the score, say for example, is explainable both to the end consumer, to the regulator, and to the bankers who are using it for underwriting. That's the main point in terms of making sure when we use AI. Second is in terms of fairness, that you don't bring in any biases in any shape or form, right from in terms of the data sampling to in terms of the deployment of equation to the variables. All the aspects of the AI deployment ensures that there is fairness in it. And third is in terms of accountability, in terms of how you are monitoring all the AI deployments across different use cases and stages of the consumer life cycle, that you hold yourself accountable and make sure that there is no biases, and at any given point of time, it's explainable to the end consumer, the regulator, and customers at large. These are philosophies with which we work with.
No, of course, Bhavesh. Madhu, in your organization, how do you see fairness, and basically which are the areas that you actually see maybe non-explainable AI actually working? So,
I guess this would be relevant if the customer service department head is around this crowd or not, right? So if you are in lending company, and if you look at the customer queries at the customer service, what is the biggest question? If you are doing a disposition of all the queries, the biggest question is, why am I rejected? End of the day, most of the lending companies or finance companies are, I mean, it's in a funny way I'm just telling, but we are in a business of rejection, right? Matlab, I don't think anybody approves more than 10 or let's say even 15% of application, whatever they are flowing in. So 85% we are rejecting. We are in a business of rejection. So when you're rejecting so many people, the biggest question what you get is, what happened with me? You know, why are you guys rejecting my profile or my loan application, right? So therefore, the way we explain that reasoning has to be curated, because one of the things what regulator is stressing upon on all the lending companies is the transparency, right? Whether it is the credit approval or rejection or the credit limit, whatever we are offering to the customer, can you explain in as rudimentary way that anybody in India across the masses can understand that, right? So therefore, explainable AI on top of agentic AI is becoming very, very critical, right? And then explainability also becomes very critical with the mode of language what you're using. And also, I mean, I'm a South Indian, so I'm not a standard Hindi speaking guy. I can understand Hindi and everything, but there are some Hindi speaking agents which talk to me. The kind of words that they use is like, probably, I don't know, for me, if being a South Indian, it sounds like a Kabir Das ka words. I don't even understand what they are saying, right? So whether they're told yes or no is also becomes an issue. So therefore, explainability is not only about that vernacular thing, but then coming to quite localized and trying to give them the context of what they are trying to convey, right? So therefore, explainable AI for me on the agentic AI is the next complexity what we are all trying to solve, where AI has taken a lot of focus and probably it has not come out well. Is, you know, you started with, can we, okay, so there's this one more company where I heard, because one of my investors is trying to evaluate this AI company and everything, which is trying to replace the management team. They feel that management decisions or not always data backed, and then therefore there is somebody who is going even by the gut feeling. So these guys want to build certain AI models, which also challenges this management decisions, saying that the data says yes or no to whatever you have decided, right? So I think these are probably a little bit overrated because it's not taking any human angle, the experience angle, or the local context and many things. So it's only going by the data which is historically available and not really on the current context. So for those things, probably I feel that are overrated in whatever you asked. But yeah, it's a lot of moonshots to hit in AI world.
Madhu,
Amazing. I will go very quick on this. I think both the things we heard, removing biases and explainability are very important. I'll give you two specific things there. In terms of biases, when you build models on a sample that is only seen urban tier 1 customers like people like us in this room, apply it to tier 4 or tier 5, both you're leaving money on the table, but that is bias. It is very important to remember there are many segments in India, many different kinds of people, cash flow patterns are different, and we have to think about them very differently. And that bias you have to remove. Explainability, I learned a phrase 25 years ago on this, and it's still, I think, says what's our responsibility as credit decision makers and as modelers. It's called physics behind the math. Always be able to explain what are you doing. Don't only go by the maths. Try to get to the reasoning behind the model and try to explain to yourself from first principles that this is a good decision or a bad decision. So that physics behind the math has stayed with me for 25 years. And I think it's always a struggle. As the math gets more and more black boxes, that is something that we have to solve for.
very interesting. Physics behind the maths. So that's something that is that'll keep with me. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll actually do a small lightning round. We'll ask a question and then basically you have to say in one-liner of what it means to you. So, to you, one AI myth in lending.
Infinite data leads to much better models.
Interesting. One barrier in the ecosystem must fix for AI adoption.
Consent-based data.
One trust principle that you will not compromise on using AI.
I think the fairness, yeah.
So Bhavesh, back to you. One metric that matters most in acquisition that can be solved using AI.
I would say, being a score company, I would say capture rate.
Anirban, what's the most overrated AI buzzword?
Most overrated. For me, it is bias.
I want to add to that. The most overrated is $1 billion. Any AI company is today, it's raising $1 billion. Forget about your valuations, right? So therefore, hopefully that follows to India as well, but anything that is there about AI is $1 billion.
I will also like to add, saying that prediction that AI will change the world and it will make humans not have any employment. I think so that's overrated and overstated.
That I think we heard as well.
Yes. Look, actually for me, the other one is human intelligence. AI is, you don't have to be intelligent in the human sense to do some of the things that human intelligence does. That I think is the biggest myth going around about AI, which is not true. One word though.
Let me ask one last question to all the three panelists. We talk about a lot of non-credit data and we talk about a lot of alternate data, right? So let me ask you one alternate data point that you believe will change the way underwriting will happen and something that either is available or not available, but the most important or just one alternate data point that you feel will actually change the way underwriting happens.
So I would say utility information. That can be a game changer for rural underwriting.
If only I had known it, I would be using it and I'll not tell you guys, right? So that is what it is. I don't think that today in this credit underwriting world with so much of data access and data democracy, there's no single data point that can change everything. If there was something like that, some holy grail like that, I think everybody would have already gone and hunt for it and then started using it, right? So I think that's something which it has become more complicated with so many companies working on it. I don't think there's a single data point like that, but there's a group of data or a new data source which is going to kind of do the changes, and how fast you can access the data, believe in the data, and then build the models on top of it is what is going to win the race, right? So having said that, I have one small example to give very quick. So we used initially in the very pre-COVID era, right, where there was no regulations and everything, you had access to all data points in the phones that is available, okay? So since any small fintechs would do in 2016, 17, we were a small no-name fintech, we accessed all the data and started analyzing anything can make any credit, credit decisioning. There was one very thing that came out is that we looked at the alarm data. If any guy who has kept the alarm before 6 a.m. or on or before 6 a.m., his credit behavior is also really great, right? So then we started correlating, matlab, सुबह जल्दी उठने से होता क्या है, right? So the idea was that if there is some discipline in life in some angle, the discipline actually kind of goes around many aspects of his life, right? This is what at least we concluded it. But yeah, sometimes this kind of data also surprises you. Yeah.
On a lighter note, Madhu just told me before the panel discussion that I don't like to get up too early and take morning flights, so I wake up after 7 a.m.
UPI data. The killer app, according to me.
Great. No, but thank you, Bhavesh. Thanks, Madhu. Thanks, Anirban. I think it was a wonderful discussion, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. And I know we are standing between lunch and this, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much to all the panelists and our moderator for that thought-provoking discussion. I would request you all to kindly remain on stage, gentlemen. It's clear that customer acquisition is no longer just about outreach. It's about intelligence, timing, and trust. And AI is rapidly becoming the engine that powers all three. Now I would like to request Mr. Abhishek Sharma, Chief Executive, SME Finance at L&T Finance, to hand over our memento of gratitude to our esteemed panel members. Come on, give it up, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, gentlemen. You can now have your seats. All right, it's time to now refuel. Please join us for lunch, and we'll see you back sharp at 2 p.m. for a slightly unexpected twist.